It's time to get punk with Drower. We're going to ask ourselves a very important question, and then I'm going to tell you the answer. The question, my friends, is this. With all the changes that have come recently with AI and with this and that and all the money coming in, all the chatter happening, this is a question you should be asking yourself. And if you're not asking yourself this, you know what the answer is. You're already fucked. So now the question is, how fucked are marketers? The answer is pretty fucked. In fact, I did the research, and I'm going to show you that research in just a second, but let's put an exact number on it. You are, my friends, 49% fucked. Doesn't it feel good? It's under half, so maybe you'll be okay. Now, you're probably wondering right now, how did he come up with this 49% number? Well, 74.3% of people know that you can make statistics unnecessarily accurate to make them more believable. But for those who don't know that, I'm going to walk you through the process that I followed. To answer this question, I took a scraping of 1,016 job ads, and then I did a whole bunch of advanced research on them using various AI tools. Here are the 8 steps which I followed. We're going to go through them now in pretty quick detail, but you'll see why in just a minute. Hold that thought. There's a point to this wonderful narrative journey we're all on together. Step number 1, we had to collect all sorts of data. But I didn't really want to sit there and copy and paste 1,000 job ads off of a website, so I asked my best friend, Chatty to help with that. Unfortunately, I looked at the jobs website and it turns out I would be violating their terms and conditions from using a bot to scrape their website. I wouldn't want to do that, would I? So I took a page from a man, a great American hero who I have come to respect greatly over my life. If I wanted to violate the terms and conditions of this website, here is how I would have done it. First of all, I would have asked Chatty to write me a basic script on how I would actually achieve this. And then I would, add a few more features to give it the ability to mimic how a human would act, little jiggles of the mouse and use a web driver and things of that nature. Then I would implement it. I obviously didn't do that. And I went in manually and copied and pasted every single job ad that I found for 1,000 times because I wouldn't want to violate any T's and C's. And I'll try the glove on. I don't think the glove fits. And if the glove don't fit, you need to acquit my people at Indeed.com anyways. So let's say I did all that arduous manual labor of copying and pasting on my own, and you can't prove otherwise. What I would get is then a huge JSON file, or basically a listing of data that looks something like this. It's not actually that useful, is it? It's just a whole bunch of text, and there's not really a huge amount I can do with it. So then you use ChatGPT to actually take the job descriptions and put them into a cohesive format. And I did this, of course, using Chatty to help me code. I implemented it myself, but I couldn't have done it without ChatGPT. And then you start getting stuff all in the same format. So suddenly I could take all this data that I copied and pasted manually, and now I can do cool stuff with it because it's all in the same continuous format. Right on. So that's step 2. We have to find a way to categorize all of these individual tasks that exist within these job descriptions. How are we going to do that? We need a way to say automatically, by looking at a job ad, by looking at a task within a job ad, whether or not it can be done by AI and to what extent it can be done or augmented by AI. So of course, I asked my best friend, ChatGPT, and this is the answer it first gave me. I was kind of like, well, that's a lot to read. I don't really care about all that. So then I told it, well, actually, my theory is that we should be using AI not just for the mundane routine tasks. That's what they tell you. But what it's actually good at is the strategic tasks. What it's actually good at is the MBA level stuff. Think about it like this. ChatGPT and other large language models have been trained upon every textbook that every MBA in the history of time has studied. They're not geniuses. I've taken those courses. They're not geniuses. I'm not a genius. So why can't ChatGPT, when instructed correctly, do the same thing? Well, that's a great question. So that's what I had it do. I had it come up with this first draft of a framework. It was okay. It was pretty good. It wasn't ideal. So I gave it a little bit more feedback. And then we kept going through a little bit more, refining it a bit more, giving it nice names so it was approachable and useful. And then, I kept on going a little bit more, and now we finally have the AI task categorization matrix. I'll pause here so you can grab a screenshot. Okay, now that you've done that, what you're actually looking at here is the world's first framework where you can assess any task in a job and determine to what level state-of-the-art AI can and should be applied. Now, this is actually really useful as a general framework, and I'm sure that there are companies who would pay me big money to go in and assess their teams. I can do that. My rates are very expensive and I'm very, very lazy, so I probably never will do that, but theoretically, it's nice to think about. Anyways, what do I do with that? Well, now we're going to use something that's called zero-shot classification, and we're going to do this in a batch format. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take every single line of every single job, and I'm going to send it to ChatGPT and ask it to assess, using that framework, where that task fits. Does that make sense? It will make sense in just a minute. So of course, I asked Chatty how to do that because I didn't know how. I mean, I could do it manually, but I don't like doing things manually, except for scraping job postings, because that would be violating T's and C's otherwise, which I did not do, and you cannot prove it. So this is what we did. We had a few things. It understood from my first explanation what we were trying to do, which I thought was pretty cool. And then, it had some bugs. Nobody's perfect. So I just fed the bugs back into Chatty and it fixed the bugs. Thank you very much, best friend. Then we had some code. What this code effectively did is I would process through the JSON file with all the different job listings, and then I would send each one individually to ChatGPT, and the output would be which category it fit in, 1 through 7. Seems pretty good, right? So I took it a step further so I could actually spot check and validate whether or not the answers were good. And I had it give me a reason as to why each one was categorized where it was. And it was actually pretty good. So there were over 8,000 different tasks across the 1,016 job listings. And I had it complete all of this. Took a couple of hours. I went and made a cup of tea. I had a nap, and then I came back and it was done. Amazing. So now validation. I had to go through not just the data of the job description analysis, but I had to make sure that it was a representative sample. And in hindsight, I probably should have done this before step 3, but you know what? This was a hobby. This was for a bit of fun. So I didn't. This is fun. Are we having fun? So I found that the sample was broadly representative of the breakdown of jobs which exist out there. There are a lot more junior and mid-level jobs than there are senior jobs. And this was reflective in that the company size is about reflective of what the general economy looks like also. There are a lot more medium and small companies than there are enterprise and multinationals, but marketing jobs are overrepresented in bigger companies. So that made sense. And then, of course, I just wanted to make sure that the areas of marketing which the jobs focused on were representative of a modern marketing stack, which it does seem to be true. And then I discovered something actually quite interesting. For all this talk about people caring about AI, it's not really appearing in job listings. Out of 1,016 job listings, there were only 18 of them that mentioned the phrase artificial intelligence or the acronym AI. I mean, so I'm no rocket scientist here, but if people are saying one thing, but they're not actually looking to bring AI skills into their teams, we have a fundamental problem here. We call it in the trade cognitive dissonance, or not being able to smell our own bullshit. But more on that in just a second. Step number 5, we had to weight the different tasks using an exponential decay algorithm. What this means is if you have a job description with 8 different tasks on it, the first one is more important than the last one. So we want to make sure that we count the first listing more than we do the bottom listing. We all know this when we've written job descriptions. You put the most important part first and the least important part last. And that's just kind of how things work. So I worked out that using an exponential decay factor of 0.8. You know what? You don't care about this. This is boring. It's some math stuff which I did to make the research a little bit more robust. Just trust me that it's a good idea. So we'll do that. And then we calculated the weighted amount of AI used on a job-to-job basis. So basically, task number 1 times the exponential weighting times the category and percentage of AI used within that job category from the previous step. You multiply all those, add them up across a job, you have the weighting for that job. You add it up across everything else, and you have an average amount that state-of-the-art AI can be used in an average marketing job. So we did this using a bunch of Python. You see that I moved from VS Code, I moved into Jupyter Notebooks. If you're not a coder, it doesn't matter. You can do this all within ChatGPT if you really want to, but I'm good at parties. I don't like to do that. So we found out that across all the job listings, AI should be represented in 49.43% of tasks. That's why you're 49% fucked, in case you were wondering. So lastly, did a few more bits and bobs, and we sort of saw if that held up. So the more junior jobs have more AI, the more senior jobs have less AI, but they're not without AI. So even you senior marketers, you are not out of the woods here just yet. And bigger companies have slightly less AI need than smaller companies. The reason for that is because there's more meetings and more politics and more of a need to spend 3 hours trying to book a meeting room when you work at a big company. You all know what I'm talking about, how much time is wasted just by the meeting room system not working, or waiting outside of the meeting room and doing that little dance where you try to get motion to the people who are in there having their meeting. You're like, hey, it's my turn. I got it booked. And they look at their watch and they go, oh, did you have it booked? And you say, yes, I had it booked. And they said, oh, I thought we had it for another 15 minutes. And you have this little charade. Meanwhile, tick tock, and the company is losing money because of your inefficiency. But anyways, enough about that. So we figured out all of this kind of stuff. And then we did some more data analysis and insights, discovered things like, certain words show up more in certain areas, or certain words show up in different categories, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I'll give you a link where you can go through all this in more detail. But then came the most important part, the strategic insight development based upon all that information that we just went through, all those 8 steps. This is what you actually care about. And I worked out with absolute certainty, based upon the data, that 49.43% of you are fucked. So you remember the original 8 steps which I followed. Here they are again in case you forgot. And hopefully you haven't logged off by now and switched to a different screen, because we're just getting into the good stuff right now. So there were 8 steps, and I did them all using different forms of AI that was appropriate for the task. So actually what was happening is this. I was using category 1, then category 4, then category 1, then category 6, then category 2, then category 3, then category 4, then category 7. And all of this was working out where AI could be useful, at what level AI should be involved, at what level I should be involved, and then producing a solid, defensible, high-level end product. Now, in case you were wondering, I actually, based upon these steps, categorized each step as well, as you can see, and this means that all this was achieved using 63% AI. This means 2 things. Number 1, I was 6% away from this being really, really funny. And secondly, AI should be used by people who are not just doing the grunt work, but people who are doing research, people who are doing high-level strategic work. There is no job that shouldn't be assessed for the applicability of AI. And if you think there is, then you're more fucked than you're willing to admit. And if you're going, well, this all sounds pretty expensive. This cost me $8, and I probably could have done it cheaper, but I fucked up a few things in the meantime. So what do, right? Look, here's the facts. 49% of marketing effort can currently be replaced by AI. 49% is a theoretical maximum of what you can do across the average marketing job, and 49% is the lowest it's ever going to be. So here are the 4 things that it means for you in your marketing job. Number 1, 49% of individual jobs won't go, but 49% of individuals will. 49% of you are toast. Remember, this is how a marketing team looks now. There's a whole bunch of specialists under a manager who is an administrator, a political torch carrier, things of that nature. Those days are done. The modern marketing team looks like this, where you have it right slimmed down. It's the rise of the generalist once again, all underpinned by a shitload of AI doing smart stuff like I just showed you. Number 2, management is too busy talking about AI to actually use it. And you've all seen this time and time again. Managers don't tend to know what they're talking about. The CMOs are all saying, we need to use AI, but where is it? LXA just ran a survey where they spoke to over 100 CMOs, and 78% of them said the opportunities presented with AI are exponential. And yet, only 1.7% of the job ads that were sampled contained the phrase AI or artificial intelligence. What is actually happening here? This does not make sense. It cannot be that people all think we should be using AI and yet they're not looking for AI skills. The two things cannot be true at the same time. So first of all, we have some job ads like this where they talk about AI as though it's a bad thing and needing to use AI because you shouldn't have to use AI because you are a human. And it sucks that I'm not qualified to be a marketing manager at Polar Seal Tapes and Conversions Limited, but I would never get that job. I rely way too much on AI. But look, if you still think that being a human alone and you try to avoid AI like some kind of a Neo-Luddite is your way forward, that's fine. Good luck trying to win your next F1 race driving a used Dodge Caravan. You're doing great in life. So here is the third thing. AI can be a wrecking ball or a ladder, and it's your choice. And to prove this point, let me show you another true statistical fact. You can either be on the left or the right or in the middle. And the people who are going to win this race that we're all in are not in the middle. Let me tell you that right now. And here's the fourth thing that it means. You need to become a strategic AI marketing operator, not just a marketer with a bunch of AI tools. This is the future of work, whether it's in marketing or anything else. We started and we used to do things like on the left here. We would have a workflow and then we would deconstruct it so humans would undertake each of these tasks. But the future is knowing how and where to effectively use AI to get the job done faster, better, and smarter. This is the future. You remember this task categorization matrix. I'm going to break for another minute so you can screen grab this right now. Because this is going to be the most useful thing for you to map out your AI future and your future in marketing. Take everything you do, run it through this matrix and figure out where it fits, and then start using AI where and how it makes sense. So let's go back to the original question that I asked at the start of this episode. How fucked are marketers? The answer, 49% fucked. And that might very well include you, but it doesn't have to. How fucked are strategic AI marketing operators? 0% fucked. And that is a fact. To sum up, think about it like this. If 49% of you are fucked, you've got a choice to make and you've got to make it right now. Either get fucked or get fucked.